season. Just what are your plans for the off season and possibly playing or just doing individual workouts?
Yeah, I mean, probably take a little bit of a break here, just for maybe a week. I don't really want to lose a ton of the stuff I've worked on, and just trying to get my body back to full health.
When a player who helped save a sport decides she no longer wants to be the one making all the sacrifices on national television, what happens? Fans spent months watching the most captivating player in modern basketball break decades-old attendance records, pull an entire league into the national spotlight, and generate billions of dollars for network executives, all while enduring a level of relentless hostility that would have broken even the toughest veteran. Everyone expected the rookie sensation to smile for the cameras, drain her signature logo threes, and quietly accept the harsh, unspoken realities of professional basketball. That expectation stretched from casual fans to the sport's most passionate analysts. They believed Caitlin Clark would silently carry the enormous weight of the Indiana Fever and a league establishment that often appeared to resent everything she represented, acting like the perfect soldier while veteran players took subtle shots at her both on the court and through the media. Sports networks pushed the mainstream narrative that everything was fine, that the rough treatment was simply part of earning her place, and that she was happily adjusting to life as a professional. But the real story was far different from that carefully crafted narrative, and what was happening behind closed doors would surprise almost everyone. The moment she stepped off the stage at the WNBA draft, a target was placed squarely on her back because of her extraordinary ability to transform a struggling league forever. If you're enjoying this content, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 83% of viewers still haven't subscribed. It's completely free, only takes a second, and it means everything to us. So, have you subscribed yet? Awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Now, let's get back to the video. Instead of receiving a warm welcome from people grateful for the money and attention she brought, Clark walked into a maze of resentment, petty rivalries, and reckless play that made every game feel more like a battle than a professional basketball contest. Opponents were doing far more than simply playing aggressive defense. While referees repeatedly kept their whistles silent, they delivered hard personal fouls, lowered heavy shoulders, threw forceful hip checks, and took cheap shots whenever they had the chance. It became a complete display of poor officiating, with commentators brushing off obvious acts of unnecessary physicality as nothing more than veteran initiation and often minimizing clear fouls. Players who had spent years competing in quiet, half-filled arenas were suddenly performing before loud, sold-out crowds. Instead of appreciating the rookie who made that possible, many seemed to direct years of built-up frustration toward Caitlin Clark. Night after night, you could see the exhaustion in her eyes as she picked herself up from the floor, looked around for a teammate to stand beside her, and found only silence. The league had no problem putting Clark's face on every billboard, advertisement, and social media campaign to boost engagement. Yet it repeatedly failed to protect its most valuable asset from unnecessary physical punishment. That silence from the very people who were supposed to support her opened the door to an internal breakdown that few in the media ever expected. Fans and analysts were left stunned by what many viewed as the Indiana Fever front office's mishandling of one of the greatest opportunities any sports franchise could receive. When a team drafts a once-in-a-generation talent who instantly turns it into the league's biggest attraction, common sense says management should immediately build the team around her, bring in experienced enforcers, and design an offense that fully showcases her elite playmaking ability. Instead, the Indiana Fever left Clark exposed with a roster that often looked poorly constructed and a coaching staff that seemed determined to limit the fast-paced, high-scoring style of basketball that made her an international star. Press conferences quickly became uncomfortable displays of passive aggression, as the head coach frequently criticized the rookie publicly, questioned her shot selection in front of reporters, and insisted she play within a much slower, outdated offensive system that stripped away the creativity that made her special. Millions of fans found it incredibly frustrating to watch a generational talent forced into such a restrictive system. It was like putting the engine from a high-performance sports car into an old, worn-out pickup truck and then complaining that it wasn't performing properly. On the court, she had virtually no protection. The young rookie was left to fight her battles both mentally and physically because there was no veteran enforcer standing beside her, ready to step in whenever an opponent delivered a cheap shot. The shocking lack of institutional support was about far more than simple negligence. It almost felt like deliberate professional sabotage, creating a toxic atmosphere both on the court and inside the locker room that steadily drained her passion for the game. If the situation in Indiana was already difficult, the disrespect on the national and international stage only became worse. The entire sports world was stunned when the highly anticipated Olympic roster was finally announced. The most recognizable and widely watched female basketball player in the world was nowhere to be found. The selection committee offered several official explanations, ranging from a lack of senior national team experience to vague concerns about team chemistry. But anyone paying close attention could see what appeared to be happening behind the scenes. A notoriously close-knit establishment seemed unwilling to share the global spotlight with a young player who, in their eyes, had not waited her turn within the sport's long-standing hierarchy. Coaches and selection committee members launched a media tour in an effort to calm the backlash. However, the optics were disastrous, exposing what many viewed as jealousy and pettiness that extended far beyond basketball strategy. This widely discussed and internationally debated omission became a painful wake-up call for the rookie superstar, shattering whatever faith she still had in fairness, meritocracy, and loyalty within the women's basketball establishment. Publicly, she handled the disappointment with the same grace she had shown throughout her career, refusing to give reporters the emotional soundbite they were hoping for. Privately, however, the message was impossible to ignore. If she could shatter television ratings, help secure charter flights for the entire league, and play a major role in attracting a massive new media rights deal while still receiving so little respect from the old guard, then continuing to play their political games simply was not worth her time. That realization fundamentally changed the way Caitlin Clark viewed her career, leading her toward a far more business-minded approach. The financial reality only made the entire situation even more unbelievable. Clark was earning a modest rookie salary from the WNBA, an amount so small that it became a frequent topic of jokes on late-night television and major sports talk shows. Compared to the broader sports world, it amounted to little more than pocket change. Meanwhile, her endorsement agreements with global brands like Nike and Gatorade were worth tens of millions of dollars. As a result, she was financially independent from the very league that continued using her image while allowing her to endure repeated physical punishment. She was not a struggling rookie trying to survive on a paycheck. She had become a global business powerhouse whose success was helping support the very people who often appeared determined to diminish her accomplishments. Every time an opponent delivered what many considered a cheap shot, or a veteran player appeared on a major podcast to downplay her impact, they were doing it on a stage that Clark herself had helped build through her unmatched popularity. Because Clark no longer depended on the WNBA to remain a cultural phenomenon, the traditional leverage that professional leagues often hold over their players simply did not exist in this case. The opposite was becoming increasingly true. The WNBA needed Caitlin Clark to keep arenas full and television ratings strong. That financial imbalance created enormous pressure that league officials and team executives seemed reluctant to acknowledge publicly. Meanwhile, well-funded alternatives were quietly taking shape behind the scenes, offering her a potentially lucrative path that few inside the traditional system had anticipated. As rival leagues expanded and global opportunities continued to grow, the idea of Clark walking away transformed from fan speculation into a very real possibility for the basketball establishment. New 3-on-3 leagues, backed by substantial private investment, were reportedly offering elite players enormous guaranteed contracts, ownership opportunities, and greater control over their careers while requiring only a fraction of the demanding traditional schedule. Strong rumors began circulating that competing organizations were preparing unprecedented offers designed specifically for Clark. Massive contracts were reportedly being structured to persuade the sport's biggest attraction to leave the grind of the traditional 5-on-5 season and join an environment that truly reflected her value. At the same time, top European clubs were reportedly preparing to roll out the red carpet, backed by ambitious billionaires who fully understood the global marketing power of Caitlin Clark's brand. Those offers promised exactly the kind of elite treatment, personal protection, and financial rewards that made the Indiana Fever's entire setup look amateur by comparison. Why would a global superstar worth millions continue risking her body through unpunished physical play and exposing her mental well-being to relentless media pressure for a rookie's salary, when so many were prepared to pay her what she was truly worth? The days of quietly accepting the treatment she received were officially over, and the balance of power had completely shifted. That set the stage for a confrontation capable of shaking the entire franchise. At that point, the issue was no longer just about money. It became about protecting her future, demanding respect, and taking full control of her own career. Behind closed doors, the tension reportedly reached its breaking point in the form of a firm ultimatum delivered directly to the Indiana Fever front office. It drew a clear line in the sand that could no longer be ignored. Strong rumors circulated among well-connected insiders claiming Clark had made it clear the current toxic situation was no longer sustainable. She was reportedly prepared to walk away entirely unless major changes were made to the heavily criticized coaching staff, the underperforming roster, and the organization's overall passive approach. She did not even need to formally request a trade. At the highest levels of both the franchise and the league office, the possibility that Clark might simply refuse to suit up, citing legitimate concerns about her physical safety and mental well-being, created enormous panic. This was no polite negotiation. It certainly was not a quiet request from an easily controlled employee. The most influential figure in the sport was looking directly at those in charge and telling them to fix the problems they had created or watch their newly revived franchise slip back into irrelevance. The message could not have been clearer. Remove the people who are holding this team back, bring in players willing to protect me on the court, and make sure the league starts calling the obvious fouls. Otherwise, I will take my talent, my global brand, and my millions of loyal fans to a platform that truly values them. It was a ruthless and strategically powerful move that stripped away every layer of carefully crafted public relations messaging, forcing the Indiana Fever to choose between protecting its pride and protecting its future. What reportedly unfolded behind the scenes had the potential to reshape the entire landscape of professional women's basketball. In the end, this remarkable story highlights the uncomfortable truth about a professional sports league that simply was not prepared for the superstar it had spent decades hoping would arrive. Caitlin Clark did more than expose the Indiana Fever's basketball shortcomings. She also revealed the league's deep-rooted pettiness, outdated business practices, and resistance to meaningful change, pulling back the curtain on the entire system. By drawing a firm line and signaling she was willing to walk away from a toxic environment, she redefined what modern player empowerment could look like. She demonstrated that real power does not always belong to the commissioner's office. It belongs to the generational athlete who commands the attention of millions of fans. Whether Clark ultimately stays with the Indiana Fever and pushes for sweeping changes or leaves to help build a new basketball league, she has already won the battle for leverage. She forced a comfortable system to confront itself and recognize that loyalty must go both ways. Eventually, any organization that continues turning against the very person driving its success will pay the price. As one of the most dramatic and widely discussed rookie seasons in modern sports history comes to a close, one question continues to haunt league executives trying to repair the damage. If you could not properly support a once-in-a-generation talent, did you ever deserve to have Caitlin Clark in the first place? Share your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video after you click the video on